take you on a small thought trip, is my intention anyway, from a couple of project initiatives to a policy suggestion. I hope you will find it worthwhile. Otherwise, you can just sneak out. I won't be angry. The most famous thing we have done in participatory culture is something we called lunch beat. It's a very simple concept where you eat lunch and you dance for 1 hour, and it's a open idea. Anyone can do this, and it has spread online from when we started it in the garage under our little office, just like any startup story should be like. I'm going to show you a short video about it so that you sort of get the idea. Yeah, we have this problem that there is no sound in this room. That's very sad. So my videos will be silent. That we started out in the garage under the office. We were 14 people a couple of years back. We wanted to do something like not doing Zumba because it felt too organized that you go and move everyone in the same way. So we thought, why not you do a sort of a little more clubby experience and then go back to work? So we did this for an hour, and then we went back, and more people came, and it worked very well as a media thing. It has this creative industry aesthetic to it. So it got legs, but normally things don't get legs. But this did, and now sort of the thing has gone over. It has sort of passed the peak, and it's become more of a methodology for conferences like this, that you do this as a thing embedded. Though there is no really community around it anymore in the same way as it was anyway. But that's not a problem in itself, I believe. It's just how things are. Another thing we do is we run a distributed film festival called Cinetopia.cc. I just tweeted, or I had scheduled a tweet to go now, when I would say this, with a link to a film screening that we can do in the end of this breakout session, if you like. This is a system for crowdsourced cinemas, and I have made prepared a screening at 4:30 that can go live in here if 3 people are booking tickets for this. So on this tweet there is a link, and if you go in and click this link, and the tickets are free. So then I will be able to show a Ukrainian animated short film about love between robots. It's a very beautiful little 3D animated film. It's only 3 minutes long. And the idea is that anyone can set up these cinema screenings, and if there is enough audience for that screening to happen, the distribution of the film is sent automatically, and the revenues between the tickets are shared between the rights owner or the producer of the film and the one arranging the event. And we'll do a festival on this to try it out between the 14th and 22nd of November. So it's an idea of this combining off and online presences. A little bit similar to what we heard upstairs in the presentation. Now, this is all leading forward to this policy suggestion, but I've been super interested in this with crowdsourcing. How the online interaction can support the physical organization. And one question I placed to, or me and my colleagues placed to ourselves this spring was that, okay, what does office do for us? What do we want to get out of the concept of office? And we wanted to have a place to concentrate, to deepen the relationships with our partners and customers. We wanted to get input from other ways of organizing that we are not used to. And we wanted to give impact from how we see things. And the traditional concept of office fulfilled only one of these 4 aspects, the place to concentrate. The other 3 were not fulfilled. So we decided to quit our normal office and do something that we felt more meaningful to those functions we needed. So we built something we call the Trojan Bureau. And you see it on the right-hand side there. It's of the size so that you can take it in the public transport in Stockholm and drive it in between different spaces. And we made a little video about it and asking for where should we sit. And then we will sit there for 2 weeks inside different institutions, like a Trojan virus being inserted into another place. So we are crowdsourcing our office space, which has been it worked rather well. It has met the goals so far anyway. I don't know, in 1 year's time when we will end this project, I don't know, maybe we'll be extremely tired of this, but it's hopefully we have come up with a new solution for a physical organization that meets the needs of a small company in the cultural sector today, which I don't think the traditional office does. And crowdsourcing can be so many things. And it comes from management theory, where we are sourcing things in different ways. We can either have multiple sourcing or single sourcing. Or you can do, if you're a municipality, you create some kind of frame agreement then to find how to source the knowledge you need, or to source the materials you need for your schools. And this is just a way of doing contracts. And crowd means the unknown online community. Now, this is it is very rarely that this is unknown. Normally, 75% are known individuals when you do a crowdsourcing campaign of any kind. But it has the potential to reach others. If we see crowdsourcing as an umbrella, there are multiple aspects of this, from what we have heard many examples today. How you either crowdsource knowledge in Wikipedia. One person might be good at society building ants, or society building insects like ants and bees. Another one is good at grammar, and the third one is good at pedagogy. And these 3 people can collaborate in creating a good article on Wikipedia, even though they never meet each other, which would be a collective knowledge building up thing. And what many have been talking about in the relationship to the arts is community building, how you use the online things to build the community. But another aspect of crowdsourcing is the crowdfunding, which is the economical part of this, how to create transactions online. But also open innovation, which is also something that we have been hearing a lot about today, that we inside the institution do not know all the possible ways of solving something. So how do we open up with a question or a problem instead, and letting the users or the audience in to help us do something? And we have seen different kind of entry points towards different open innovation processes today. And I have mostly looked at the crowdfunding aspect of this. And in 2008, we decided to build a crowdfunding platform. At that time, I didn't know of the word, so we called it a hybrid economy instead. But then crowdfunding has become sort of the dominant term to use. And if there are any words that you find sort of problematic, or that I'm using that is not your everyday word, that just ask me, okay, what is that? Because I'm not using these words really to exclude. It's more that many of these words are important to use in the correct way, because if you want to get more knowledge about them and Google them, Google is good at finding things that you already know, but it's not so good at finding things that you don't know. So it's very important that you use the right terminology. So that's why the words are a little bit important. It's not that I'm trying to play clever or anything. So this is a construct that we made afterward, but I usually claim that we asked ourselves this question: what would public funding of the arts look like if we came up with the concept of public funding today? Now, we never asked us this question. This sounds clever afterwards, but we probably just had an idea. How can't we do like this? And then, but what we did is that we have built a system where the audience can affect where the public sector's cultural money is invested. So someone can put a project up on this internet website, and then if people start doing transaction to this, starting from €5 per month and up, we have pre-negotiated public fund means that can be co-invested into this project, meaning that the audience can affect what projects will be realized. And the co-investment is dynamic, meaning that it is not, if I pay 50%, if I pay €5, so the fund will pay €5. It's not like that. It's instead based upon the competition on the platform and how many people are supporting your project. So it's about getting more audience, not a rich audience, that makes a project be realized, which I find a very important aspect. And we started out running this in collaboration with the municipality of Stockholm between 2009 and 2011. And then over the years we have it in some more regions in Sweden. And about 200 projects have been realized through the system until today. But this is not, I don't think this is an unproblematic thing to do, as most things are not unproblematic. We have, but it raised many questions to myself. So, okay, what is happening with the cultural practice and such when we go online? So we talked to the ministry, the Nordic ministry of this cultural fund, if we could do a conference series on the digital economy and culture, which we ended in May this year at Medea. We've done it in Copenhagen, Stockholm, and Helsinki before, to sort of dig deeper into the different contractual aspects and the economical aspect and the audience aspects of digital culture. But I skipped an important slide here, which I really want to show, because this is the important aspect of why having a dynamic co-funding model and not a static that is 50-50. Because normally when we act as an institution, I guess many of you are from different institutions, and that maybe you apply for a grant or a EU project, and normally they will say, okay, if you supply 50%, we will supply 50%. That's an EU idea. And then we have professional negotiators on both sides that know how this function. When you work with the kind of individual artists, they are both the marketer, the contract person. It's another power balance, which makes it important. Makes it quite difficult to be in these funding models that are strict. That's my own experience. Yeah. So the numbers here are to our most left side is the first project, and to the most right is the last project in time. So first there comes a project on the platform called Clown Medicine, then comes Ett kilo bomull, then comes Dramakungen. And the green axis that we see there is the amount of public funding. So in the first project that we can see it's around 80% public funding. And then as competition increases on the platform, the public funding part goes down. In the last project, this is only 9%. And the yellow line is number of audience connected to the project. So as the competition increases, the projects are forced to a more dialogue phase with their audience, which is of course it might be very interesting. So these projects in the end are much more anchored up in their different communities, which and we can also see that if you have the idea that you want to have, let's say, 50% funding from the private sector, the dynamic model, depending on how you work with it, can actually outperform that, which is also an interesting aspect. Well, some of these movies are out, some are not. This Clown Medicine, that is the first one. It got the TV contract in Sweden on the national broadcasting. It's of course it's a good movie, but their efforts to work in a different way also increased the curiosity from TV to contract this film. Some of them have been on the Gothenburg Film Festival. That was also working in a different way was an important thing for them. So they took the film because of this. And I don't have numbers on these. These are not films that are on cinema distribution, and only one has TV distribution. Some of them might have VOD. I'm not exactly sure. But if you look, for example, at the Cannes market, just to talk about film, I think it was last year it was 1,300 films and 70 got cinema distribution. So from this amount of films, it would be rather unlikely to get that, because they are not really that type of films.
Just to say quickly,
yeah.
That when somebody asks a question in the audience, you have to repeat it, because this is going right out to our streamers, and there are a couple of hundred persons out there now tweeting and asking, what did she say?
Okay, so the question was, earlier on was that, okay, what does the different colors stand for? And so one is, the yellow one is number of audience interaction, and the green one is the co-funding ratio. Yes, and then the second question was about popularity. How well have these been received, these films? And some of them are not out yet, and some are. But we have not followed up that far. So I decided to do this conference series on digital cultural policy, and this will be my conclusions from this conference series. One of the more interesting things is the business model, of course. I was in another seminar earlier on, and the business model for most of these platforms is something we call open business modeling. And open business models is what, for example, you do on Airbnb. So the users are creating the content that is supplied to other users. So fostering a community among people where they can share different things and so on. And added to this is a economical transaction, of course. I can borrow your apartment for a certain cost. And this platform takes a small cut on this. The big problem, this is not too problematic in a way, because that is what people do on the marketplace. They share things. the problem is that these things happen in a globalized environment. So the development of Airbnb has been like bam through the roof, and they turn over a huge amount of money, as do Amazon, as do Google and Facebook. And there's European branches all have their seats in Ireland, where the financial policies are very weak, meaning that they can export all their gains to their Bahamas-based holding companies. And this we know from other sectors, of course, as well. But what happens here is that it's very closely linked to the cultural economy. So we get, because lots of online consuming is related to culture. Thus, we export, since they take all the gains out, there is no tax base for this. And this becomes problematic, of course, because the tax base is what funds our cultural institutions. And OECD has launched a flagship project connected to this called Base Erosion and Profit Shifting, BEPS, which I think is one of the more important projects going on right now, because well, let's say the ad revenues for papers are dropping per year very, very much, because when you move the window of where the ad is displayed. Earlier on it was in the newspaper, but now it's on your Google list. When you Google for an article, you see the ad there. So the ones who want to do an ad is rather paying Google than the newspaper. And so we have a drop in ads that is from, from 2010 to now, it's 70% of what it was. And this is going very, very quick. So we have no ad revenues for the papers and no tax base from what these ads have previously benefited to the common, which is very, of course, problematic, because we have in, let's say, a music institution like Malmö Symphony Orchestra that we heard speak earlier, they probably have 80% of their funding from the public sector, I would assume. I might be wrong, but in those kind of around that. And it's the same for the museum and so on. Just to look at how big are these economies that we are talking about. Is it substantial, or is it just a guess for the future? And if we compare the economy, for example, of Google and Iceland's economy, the economy of Google is much higher than the gross national product of Iceland. So it's very hard for the Icelandic Ministry of Culture to go to Google and say, we should actually get something back here. It's almost impossible. It's such a small player. And if we look at the economies in total, we add together the Nordic countries and Balticum, their turnover is, of course, much bigger than all of these players together. So we can see that it would be, my personal belief is that we need to address this as a Nordic common in order to get the negotiations going with these people that are exporting tax base. You follow? So it's, and we can learn from France, which has a very interesting case from last year, where the publishing industry went together and made a claim towards Google saying, okay, we can see our ads dropping this quick. Why can't we create a common? We have to have some money in order to produce content. Otherwise, we need to lobby on our government to close you down, because we cannot freely deliver content in French to our users, but not getting anything back. So it would be good for both you as Google and for us to have something together. And they have set up a trust fund that is of 60 million euros yearly, where the publishing houses of France can apply and get business development money in order to work better in this digital world that is now growing. And I think it's very well composite trust. It's built up of 3 people from the publishing industry, 3 people from the journalistic side, and 1 representative of Google. And every project that applies needs to prove how what they are doing is innovative for their business practice, so that they will have a more sustainable growth and working better with the digital distribution mechanisms. And I believe this is a rather clever way forward that we could actually adopt in the Nordics. Because what happens now, we have seen examples of these people having super hits with their viral videos and so on. And I just made this as an example. On the left-hand side, we see the Swedish singer Veronica Maggio. And on the right-hand side, we see Psy, who made this Gangnam Style. And Gangnam Style is probably the smallest denominator in the world right now. It's probably the cultural expression that most people share. It's been seen by over 1 billion people. That's a seventh of the world or something like that. He has this Google ad collaboration with YouTube. So he gets a certain percentage of the ad revenues made by the little ad in front of his that plays before his video starts. We have to remember, this is the most played song in history, probably. He makes 52 million Swedish crown. That's 5 million euros from this song. Veronica Maggio she had a song last year that was the most played in Sweden, and from this she made 5.5 million crowns through the traditional system of rights protection. Now, Sweden is nothing in this, so and he can only make 10 times as much on the world's most spread thing that she makes on one song in Swedish. That is not played outside Sweden very much. So there is, but on the other hand, these companies that are distributing this, that has a long tail business idea like YouTube, their business models are so brilliant, they're making huge revenues, but there is very little share back. So, and then just to see what the difference is here. Oh, it was 2 billion plays, not 1 billion plays. And what happens is that this I just took from YouTube. There are 4 versions of Veronica Maggio's song that I choose here, and one has 1 million plays, another one has 400,000 play, and some have 70,000 play. And none of these is made by Veronica Maggio. She has not put her song up on YouTube. These are all piracy copies. And he has only 1 song up, which is his own, of course. So these are competing on completely different markets. This is just what I want to show. But her business model is probably much more successful in terms of economy, not of course in reach. But people want to pirate copy her song, but not his. And it would be, of course, very important if we could combine these 2 things, so that a artist like Veronica Maggio could have her song up, still make revenues, because if she would have had her song on YouTube with that, because from 2 billion plays he gets 52 million crowns, 5 million euros. With her, let's say 1.5 million or 2 million, that is a thousandth part of those 5 million. So she would not make very much money at all from her song using this model that is claimed to be very good. So what is actually happening? In the traditional way, we have, of course, a market for the where the creator meets their audience, some kind of platform. This could be your music center or your local museum, or as in the case of the online platforms, it's a direct connection between them. And there is no collection society supporting that there is an economical feedback. So we are in a way making a shorter distance, of course, but not supporting the economical redistribution. Does any questions arise around this? How should I interpret this silence? And either that, okay, he's really, really stupid, or do you agree? Do you think this analysis is sort of, does it sound reasonable? Yeah, of course. But you think it sounds reasonable anyway. That's good.
I'm interested how you're going to connect it with the cultural institutions and how we work.
Yeah, so the question is how to connect this to the cultural institution. In very practical means, what I would like is that under the Nordic Ministry under Nordic Ministry, there are 3 bodies for cultural collaboration. It is the Cultural Fund, it's Culture Point Nordic in Helsinki, and there is the Film and TV Foundation in Oslo. I think we need a 4th one, that is for the digital cultural sphere, which could be both working with the pedagogy around this, but especially doing the negotiations with these companies that pop up, because we need something light-footed. The problematic situation is if we go through the legal frames, okay, it takes 2 years to set up these new tax rules and so on. I think that is it's of course important that we do that as well, but we need some negotiating body that can be a little bit quicker to see what's happening and responding to the market. And then I think we should do as they did in France, set up a fund within this pan-Nordic body that the institutions can apply for grants for their digital development, which is completely funded by the negotiations with these global players. So it would be something that is strengthening for the audience work and the organizational work within the institution, but also the free cultural sector, of course. It should not be exclusive for the institution. That would be very sad, I think. Yeah, the Carolina Fund is mentioned here. It's a crowdfunding platform in Iceland.
Yeah, well, I don't know where it is. There comes money from people are releasing CDs and even older recordings. A lady 70 years old released a history of 60 years of her piano playing through this, and she could finance the whole project and even give a party afterwards and still have some money.
Yeah, but this is interesting because crowdfunding was one of the aspects that I took there. And we built this platform that is for the Swedish context. And this is, of course, for a relationship with to build a relationship with the audience. And I think it's brilliant. If we look at one of the most successful crowdfunding campaigns that have been done in the Nordic, is for the Finnish film Iron Sky, science fiction movie with lots of CGI, really cool. It raised 1 million euros in crowdfunding, but that was only 25% of its budget. So 75% came from traditional funding. So even though crowdfunding is I think it's a brilliant contribution to how we can involve people and so on, but it's still a marginal factor in the bigger picture. And for the free cultural sector, it is a little bit anyway to export but saying that you are responsible for collecting your own means. But it's as difficult to run a crowdfunding campaign as it is to attract audience in the ordinary way. Because what crowdfunding does, it moves you from being a consumer that, okay, I buy this thing, to be a prosumer. You buy a dream that hopefully will be delivered in the future. I'm a profound believer in this in a way, but it doesn't come without its backside to it as well. And that's why we wanted to do the platform we built in Sweden in connection to the public sector. Because if the money that you get from the public sector in Sweden is what gives you cultural legitimacy. If you want to have something presented on a concert hall and you have funded it yourself or only through private means, it will be very hard to get this work up. But if you got a scholarship from the National Arts Foundation, the symbolic key is given to you through this, and you can actually open the door to the institution. So if there is no institutional collaboration between the crowdfunding platform, you are not really helping the artists, I believe, because it's not a market. It's a very much more complex ecosystem.
Also add to this multicultural fund that they will support individual projects without having 3 countries into it. Because some projects are, for example, publishing some culture from one country. It's sometimes different. It's so special within each country that it can't go into.
No, so the cultural specificities that is making it hard to do. I'm repeating the question in the micro. So the cultural specific things makes it difficult to work cross-border. That is true, and that is why there are 5,000 crowdfunding platforms globally right now, and there will be a strong consolidation between these. Because it's very much a winner-takes-it-all market, like most of these network-based things. There is not need for another Facebook if you are there where everybody else is. And it's the same with Airbnb. You don't need, if the market is here where I present my house, I don't present it on another platform as well. So what we see is local monopolies in each sector growing up. Like Amazon with books. Okay, why should you go somewhere else to buy books than on Amazon? Of course, they will be the market dominant and the only. If we don't regulate it, they will be a monopoly player, which is probably not the best development.
You said you made 5 million euros on this one sum. How much did you do?
I think they make 50. They make 45. They get 45%. So they got approximately the same as he did. But the spikes in the business model, the open business model, is not the spikes of traffic that makes them earn money. It's a long tail, little that's much more valuable for them. And in all those cases, the person who did it doesn't make hardly anything. Well, so this was my suggestion of what we should do to set up a negotiating body with this what's going on, and this change is quick. Google is 15 years old. They have not been so dominant on the market until like 10 years ago. So this is a fast moving thing, and I think what the policy initiatives that we do, they also need to be as sort of dynamic, so that they can play with this market. That's otherwise. And I also think we can create it out in a win-win situation that is actually beneficial for Google. Like in France, they have found a way of actually making the newspaper adopt slightly, so their content is more easily available on this system. So it's of course also adopting a little bit in their direction. And that might be both positive or negative. That's up for discussion. But what we saw in the French negotiation was not a problematic situation where it was impossible to solve this, because this is also on their side. And I think that they would be up for this negotiation if the right actor came and said that, okay, now we have gathered around this, the 5 countries are behind this, we are helping the Baltic countries too, because as with Iceland's economy, Estonia's economy is much smaller than Google as well, and they need the collaboration to be here in order to do this well. And it could be great for the Estonian development. But it's interesting what you said here before. It's a new concept maybe too. Is it anyone else who is thinking that, okay, this sounds very complicated, or is it more straightforward? It's okay. So the proposal is that normally these systems want to be outside of the system as own entities and not in connection to the market. And this is in a very important aspect, because okay, this is more esoteric or conspiracy wise, but very many of these systems do they don't like the traditional system. They want to step aside. And that's why cryptocurrencies are so interesting, because if you have cryptocurrencies like Bitcoins or something like that, you can do transactions that are invisible for the taxation authorities. So, of course, very many of the strategies that are developed within these companies are tax avoidance strategies, because you don't want to commit to the common, which is extremely strange, because they are knowledge-intensive companies that are dependent upon tax-subsidized universities, tax-subsidized infrastructure, and this would not be possible without a huge common collaboration. So I think they are living in some of these, when you read what they write, are living in this autonomous dream for the moment. But this is as much part of the market as anything else. And my best metaphor for this, I think myself, that this is sort of the conclusion of the conference as a metaphor, is that we have discovered a new continent, just like in 1492 when they sailed across to the Americas. And this continent seems to be all gold, and you can just pick the fruits from wherever. It's super accessible. But what happened on this continent at its early years? It was a slave trade that was very bad. And we can see, for example, in the model of crowdsourcing, there is one part that is called micro labor, where you put out working tasks for people to, maybe as click workers, sit and click and say, okay, this is a ball, this is blah, 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 this is to tag things. And the beautiful thing for the person exploiting these systems is that you don't pay tax on this, and you can export labor to countries where there are very low security for work. So this sort of slavery is happening within this. I don't know if you heard about these working camps for World of Warcraft, where people are sitting and playing up weapons in Mexico. And then they sell these digital weapons on eBay. But it's slave conditions people are working on, creating these virtual goods. They have to sit and play World of Warcraft 16 hours per day to earn a living and to sell these objects. So the question is, how can we regulate the country? And it's not just because it is, of course, not a new continent. It is just something that is super physical. Everything has a physical aspect to it, and I think we should not view this from a technological point of view, because then we get all carried away by how magic everything is. We should only see the power game. And if you see the power game, you can regulate it, because these companies have a physical address, and it's there. We should look at it. We should not look at, for example, the server side, because, okay, where was actually this ad displayed for the user? Was it displayed in Sweden or in Ireland? That we will never be able to do. So we have to look at on the owner structures of each company. That's the way to do policy. Yeah, okay, so who regulates this? This is an extremely complicated issue that I cannot answer, but it's on so many levels, because one is just the industry to them negotiation, that, okay, setting up this trust fund, but their tax avoidance things, that's a EU Commission issue, that, okay, we must put pressure on Ireland, they cannot do this, and other things are national issues. Because one very interesting side story to this is that we have too little knowledge about this. We are too carried away by the magic of technology. So the Swedish government invested 13.6 million euros in that Facebook is building a server hall in Luleå, in the very north. And of course, the server hall is all interesting. It's more advanced than someone coming in and only doing janitor work. Is slightly more advanced, but it's on that scale anyway. So it won't create very many new jobs. And then our former Ministry of Business says that it's a small investment, this 13.6 million euros. We will get it back in the tax. I don't know if she has looked at Facebook Sweden how much they paid, but it was the same year they paid 77,000 euros, meaning that it would take 180 years to get this money back. And that's a very bad return on investment. And this is because we are fooled by the brand, that it looks so grand, this brand, and we are not looking upon the owner structure and what is going on. And I think we just, as being sort of post-digital people, which I hope we are not just glamored by the promise of digital, but we see that it's actually something that is just part of everyday life and just a tool like everything else. Yeah. Well, it's a very good question. This is more my proposal is that okay. It's a simplistic proposal because I just see that okay, this needs more regulation, and I think it has to be something that is that the Ministry of Business and Culture sits down together in each country. Now these 10 people, and they say okay, this is actually an important thing. We cannot waste 13.6 million in a bad way if we don't get anything back. And that would, I think, give the legitimacy that, okay, it's actually these 8 governments are backing these things. And then we need someone who is a really sharp mind doing this, some old judge or something like that knows how to do that. But what would they fund? I think that needs to be. I think the French model is kind of interesting with this because the fund becomes a meeting between the sort of data-driven technological innovation and the institution. So the fund actually pushes for development. And I think that's what the fund should do. That it's not like we have a trust fund in Sweden with everyone who died and don't have any relatives that is reinvested in social projects. And these are more to kind of do important social projects. But I think this fund should be more targeted on the organizational change processes, not so much on just doing nice things. Yeah.
Negotiating on behalf of indie record companies in connection with, for example, Spotify, etc. And it seems your idea, and as well as Merlin, which I don't know that much about, but still, it's to become a little bit bigger player in connection with these enormous corporations, to leverage some sort of power by being more grouping oneself together, becoming then stronger. And that's something I see as your kind of base idea.
Yes, and so the base idea is, of course, grouping together, because I think Sweden can do this negotiation. If the Ministry of Culture would sit down and decide that, okay, this is an important thing, it would happen. But Latvia couldn't. And so I think it's very important that we do it together in order to that everyone is getting the upper side of this. And I think the Nordic Film and TV Fund is something good to model this upon, because it has done a very good job in creating joint ventures that have been both successful for Denmark and for the west part of Sweden and blah, blah, blah. So I think we can learn from that their experience a lot, because it's fairly similar. So, yeah, but I think we crowdsource our politicians every 4th year, and that's a very efficient way of doing it, because if you would crowdsource every decision, it would be really sub-optimizing. So I believe in partial crowdsourcing when it comes to power. Time, yes. So the question is, do you want to see a crowdsourced cinema screening? Let's see. Let's see if it has been released. Oh. So it has already passed. Damn it. Yeah. Okay, that was very bad of me. I didn't really think of that. Well, I should have crowdsourced that to an Icelandic person. Well, I prepared the video anyway, because since there is no, computer. So this is a small Ukrainian animation film. That's kind of nice. Yeah, that was it. Thank you very much for that. I heard they laughing in the other room there. I got a bit jealous. Yeah. I hope you had a good time anyway. See you in the coffee. See you.